Welcome second graders. Today we're going to continue with lesson 9 for Unit 5 Module B. The two vocabulary words for this lesson are stable and howling. Stable, if you look at this example, is a table. So this table is not likely to change or fail. It's firmly established. Stable means when something is not easily knocked down or it's strong. Howling, I want you to think about a wolf howling at the moon. Howling means shouting, right? The wind or screaming. So sometimes if it's really windy, we can hear, we would say that it's howling. Our lesson objectives. Our convention's objective is I will be able to write prepositional phrases. And our writing objective is I will be able to write a narrative with a beginning, middle, and end. Convention's mini lesson, prepositional phrases. Remember that a preposition shows that the relation of a noun or pronoun to another word in the sentence. Writers can use prepositional phrases to add interest to their writing and provide more details. By using prepositional phrases, writers can expand their sentences. Let's look at some examples. Jake hid under the bed. The prepositional phrase is under the bed. It tells where Jake hid. He came back with Mr. Swenson. The prepositional phrase is with Mr. Swenson. The preposition is with, and Mr. Swenson is the noun in the phrase. This prepositional phrase tells who Papa came back with. And finally, outside, a soft wind was blowing in the new corn. The prepositional phrase is in the new corn. The preposition is in. The word the is an article. New is a describing word, and the word corn is the noun in the phrase. This prepositional phrase tells where the wind is blowing. So in your online writing journal under Lesson 9, you're going to write a sentence using one of the prepositions below. Okay, so the prepositions you have to use are through, in, on, under, above. So remember, you just have to choose one of these for your sentence. Narrative writing. Write a narrative. Remember that a narrative has a beginning, middle, and end, and that writers use linking words and phrases to help readers follow story sequence. Writers also use details to describe characters and events in a story. Today you will write a narrative about a pioneer child. So here are some questions to help us think about before we start writing. What happens at the beginning of a story? The writer introduces the subject and characters of the story. The first events take place. What do writers write about in the middle of a story? The events the characters experience. What happens at the end of a story? The writer brings the story to a conclusion. And finally, what are some linking words and phrases a writer can use to help readers follow a story sequence? First, later, soon, after a while, the next month, at the end of a year. So if we were to look at page 101, this text is from the middle of the story. The writer describes some things that happen to the characters. Pay attention to the way the writer describes events and characters and uses linking words and phrases to help readers follow the story sequence of events. Mama was frying donuts, and Jake and I were doing our lessons on the dirt floor when visitors finally came. Indians. Frying donuts and doing our lessons on the dirt floor are details that the writer includes to describe events. When, and finally, are linking words that the writer includes to help readers follow the story sequence. Jake hid under the bed. I crept behind the rocking chair, my knees trembling with fright. They looked so fierce. Jake hid under the bed. I crept behind the rocking chair, my knees trembling with fright, and they looked so fierce are details that the writer includes to describe characters and events. But Mama smiled. She gave one of the Indians a donut. The Indian smiled. Mama kept on making donuts, and the Indians kept on eating donuts until Papa came home. Mama smiled. She gave one of the Indians a donut. The Indian smiled, and Mama kept on making donuts are details that the writer includes to describe characters and events. Kept on and until are linking words that the writer includes to help readers follow the story sequence. Write a narrative. So you will be writing a narrative about a child who wants to be a pioneer. Let's look at these questions before we begin writing. Is there information in the text that can help you write your story? How will your story begin? What will happen in the middle of your story? And how will your story end? So an example of a narrative could be, one day Hannah's father told the family that they were going west. They packed a wagon and began their trip. When it rained, the wagon got stuck in mud. Hannah's brother hurt his arm. Her sister got sick. They had to cross the river and had trouble getting to the other side. At last they came to the prairie and built a house. The summer was hot. The winter was cold. So much snow fell that it went up to the roof of the house. Spring came. The family planted crops. They knew that this was their home. So in your online writing journal under the independent writing practice, you're going to follow these directions. Write a narrative about a child who wants to be a pioneer. Your narrative should have a beginning, middle, and end. Include at least 3 prepositional phrases and specific details that describe characters and events. Okay, so I'm here if you have any questions. You may email me or we can do a Google chat. Thank you.